Hello everyone and welcome back to Shananarambles with myself and A-Game.
Hello.
Hello, we're here. What are we doing here? I went blank.
We are doing a follow-up to our Resident Evil Village ramble that we did a few weeks ago.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we have now finished watching the entirety of the game.
Yes.
And we obviously can now discuss what our theories were last time, whether we were right, whether we were wrong. And now we can also discuss what actually happened. Is that your way of going, oh, I was wrong?
I'm a little bit nervous, but I've got to frame this.
You should be nervous. You know why?
Because I was right.
No. You owe me $200.
Oh. What?
You last time made a bet on air.
Oh no.
$200. You swore that Jack would make an appearance.
He did.
He didn't.
He did.
He didn't.
He did.
Oh, that doesn't count. That was a flashback.
It's an appearance.
No, it wasn't.
It's an appearance.
No, you suggested he was going to make an appearance as in he was one of the new characters.
I never stipulated.
And he wasn't. No, you owe me $200. You're not getting out of it.
I never stipulated in what form. I just said an appearance, I'm assuming. I can't remember what I said.
Flashback is not an appearance.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not, because it's footage we've seen before.
Whatever.
You owe me $200.
All right.
Would you like me to recap?
No. I want to frame the picture of what's happened.
All right.
So that way I at least have some sort of ground to stand on.
No, you owe me $200.
I have a molehill, and I will defend this molehill with my life. So, A-Game and I recorded, put the episode out. Friend of the show got back to me and was just laughing her head off, trolling, lolling, memeing, all of that at me at how stupid and wrong I am. And
I'd like to point out, no, not completely.
No, well, what happened was, so she
to that one specific thing that you thought you gleaned from what she'd said. Yes, you were wrong, but most of your other theories were good.
So she says that, calls me out, basically. And I'm like, oh, hell no. That was it. I took off my shoe, I threw it on the ground, and I was ready to rumble. All right? And I went to town. And with my very limited knowledge, I went to town. And her end being, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. And it got to the point where I got frustrated with her. Not because of her, but because of, if I'm wrong, if my theory is wrong, then the story is completely obvious, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is that, and that, and this, and this, and that.
Was it obvious and boring?
Obvious, yes. Boring, no. It was entertaining, but
there were a few little twists in there that I think made up for the fact that the overall story to Shenanigans was predictable.
The problem was I bought into my own hype. I got so into the rabbit hole with this game that I went, oh, what if this, stringing all of it together because it's the next step in the reboot. So I'm looking for things to change and things to mix it up a bit. And the alternative, the reality, was like, no, that's too obvious. They wouldn't do that. And that's what they did.
All right, everybody. So
I'm here to pay for my crimes, and I'm standing on my molehill.
All right. So Shenanigans' theory.
So
his main theory.
So last time we did this,
we just entered the dollhouse. We had just
entered. Was it Belladonna or Bella?
Bellaviento.
Bellaviento Manor House, whatever, Casa. With Angie, the little freaky doll.
Yep.
Did you find that house freaky?
A little bit, yes.
I
didn't like the fact that it kept sort of skitzing on us.
That didn't bother me.
And I also don't understand the Mia doll on the table. That didn't make sense to me. Although, now that we know the end, it kind of does. Okay. Didn't think about that.
No,
before,
the dollhouse itself with the mannequins and all that was a little bit creepy. Oh no, sorry, now I remember why I was so scared of that place. The dollhouse itself was a little bit creepy. It bothered me, but I was okay. It was the goddamn baby that looked like a penis. All right.
Why was that baby there? Did we ever work out why it was in that house? Where it came from?
Oh, because it was hallucinogenic. It was Ethan seeing stuff.
Oh, so it wasn't actually there.
No.
You're just seeing it.
But I'm telling you,
That's what your twisted mind drilled up as a scaring thing.
Me or him?
You.
Me. I saw a penis. I saw a giant penis right up until it opened its mouth, and I'm like, oh.
Made very cutesy noises, which was just like...
I get it. It's a baby, not a penis. I just imagine this giant flaccid penis just chasing him down the hall.
It was really funny, because in the playthrough we were watching, the guys who were playing it were very good at, as soon as they knew it was coming, they hid. So we actually didn't get a really good look at it until... pretty much we were about to leave the area and never see it again, and then we got a good look and we were both like, oh, that thing's gross.
Yeah. Dollhouse didn't bother. The rest of the scary parts were sort of over and done with for me. I mean, there was...
I suppose the fish guy didn't really scare you.
The fish guy, Moreau didn't scare me. Heisenberg didn't scare me. The zombies, for some reason, still get me.
The ghouls.
The ghouls got me. The werewolves.
What about that one that came out of the ground?
Oh, no. That wasn't fun. Was that after?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was when we were... after we'd left the dollhouse, but before we got to the fish place, when we were trolling around. So we're walking through, like, this... What's it called? This archway?
Yeah, this garden area.
This sort of garden archway, and all of a sudden this zombie just crawled up out of the ground in front of us. And Shananigans jumped.
That was the biggest scare of the whole game for me, was that one zombie. I think I almost... I lost it. I nearly cleaned up everything. I was just... Get out of my way.
And of course, typical me, that was the moment I'd looked down. So I didn't see it. So all I saw was Shananigans having an absolute fit. So of course then I insisted that we go back so I could see it.
No. Anyway, point was, the rest of the game wasn't that scary. I don't know why.
No, I don't think it was. The fish dude was gross, but he wasn't scary.
You found that really disturbing.
I found it... Oh, I just found it gross.
It didn't bother me.
All of that... No, all of that throwing up and that pussy stuff and him constantly twisting and changing, I found that gross.
Look, if it was real, I'd be vomiting everywhere. Projectile.
Oh.
But watching it, it didn't bother me. I was just like, whatever.
Didn't the helicopter dude scare you a little?
That was creepy, yeah. Propeller Man, I can't remember what they called him. Propeller Man, that was just weird. It was creepy. Like, the jump scares of it were scary, but when they're actually fighting him, like, yeah, he's not that big of a threat. He's not that scary. I don't know. Look, this is just me, and we should get back to what we're doing here. I just wanted to reflect on the series a bit. The first half of it, where we did our first episode, I was really engaged with this game. Again, I went down that rabbit hole hard. This one, the second half, it really tapered off for me. I don't know why, though. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just the hype was gone. I think that's what it came down to. The hype was gone. I knew that the most likely answer was the answer, and I was disappointed, so I just sat there going, okay.
I mean, yeah, we kept watching it because we wanted to have our questions answered and see the end.
Correct.
But, yeah, I don't think we were as invested in it as we were the first time.
No, which is disappointing.
All right. Podcast
I blame you.
Podcast 1, a reflection.
Oh, is that what it's called?
I'm calling this section of this podcast that, yes.
The reflection.
So, your final thoughts, your main thought at the end of the last podcast, the main thing that you were thinking, which I'm assuming this is the thing that let you down, is that you were convinced it was all in Ethan's head and they were still in Louisiana.
That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. That was wrong.
Wrong, but I was going in the right direction.
You were correct in that, because you said at one point, because we were talking about Mia at one point about whether we were confused by the bullets, and your theory at that time was that you didn't think she was ever alive. You think something had happened to her in Louisiana, potentially Ethan too, and you even said maybe they were mold people.
Called it.
Which, as we now know, Ethan was, not Mia.
No.
Ethan was...
Actually, that was a good twist. I did like that.
But yes, but Mia in that moment was a mold person because she wasn't Mia, as we learned out. She was Miranda.
Well, I didn't like Mia that much in the first one. I didn't like her at the start of Resident Evil 8. I didn't like the hallucinating Mia. Yes, she was scary.
But
I liked that. But when she was actually alive, I'm like, oh, what a twist. And I enjoyed that part.
But us learning that Mia at the beginning was actually Miranda, that answered a few questions. It answered her standoffish behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
Because you actually would assume she actually wouldn't know a lot of what happened in Louisiana. So you would think every time Ethan brought it up...
Does she or doesn't she? Because she's part of the Mega Mycete or whatever it was called.
But she said the Mega Mycete holds
memories.
The consciousness of people who die. That doesn't mean she has access to it.
Okay. No, well,
if you think about it, she was drawn to them because of Rose. She infiltrated as Mia, but she didn't know the specifics. So you think every time Ethan brought it up, she snapped. So that he would leave it alone and stop talking about it. That could have just been because she actually didn't have the answers.
Makes sense. Also, one of my big raging points, my major annoyances with this game, was everyone was American. But they kept saying, we're in Europe, we're in Europe,
apparently,
we're in Europe.
Because Mia did actually say to Chris at the end, you made us move here.
Yeah.
That was pretty much a big indicator that they actually were in Europe.
Yep. And I actually did some digging. I went back and actually did some Resident Evil lore digging. And in Resident Evil 2, the remake...
Yeah.
If you play as Claire... Well, when you play as Claire, during the campaign, she meets, and I cannot remember the police officer's name, but he's the black police officer with stars in the police station.
Mm-hmm.
And she tries to call Chris. And the police officer says to... It's something like that. And the police officer says to her... Oh, you can't. He's in Europe on a secret mission.
Ah.
Yep.
There you go.
Anyway, we'll talk about that after go.
But Miranda's infiltration of the house also answers one of your questions. You were very weirded out why everyone knew him as Ethan Winters.
Mm-hmm.
Considering Miranda had spent a decent amount of time living with him, of course they would all know his name.
Oh, yeah. I actually didn't put that together till just now. That's why
they all knew him as Ethan Winters.
It's because he was the great Ethan Winters. Mother Miranda's like, well, I got to go peace out and live with this dude for a while.
Well, the other thing that we suggested, we assumed that, of course, Rose's importance was due to what Ethan and Mia had been through in Louisiana, which is still technically true, isn't it?
I figured she was some sort of mutant or superpowered being. Turns out I was right.
She's not superpowered. She just has very good regenerative properties.
Look, who knows?
But
we are yet to see.
But one of my favourite points is that we now have an actual answer for the stupid jacket going back on.
Oh, yeah.
He's a mould person. His clothes are mould.
Yep.
So, of course, his clothes would just sew back together.
Yeah.
So his crazy regenerative abilities
were
also explained.
I will take that every day of the week over Goop Juice. Goop Juice fixes everything.
The other thing we were discussing whether or not it was actually Chris, which obviously, as we learned out, it was. He was trying to do the right thing, as you predicted. You know, he came in, he knew something was wrong, he was trying to protect Rose and
Ethan.
Yeah,
because he didn't know about Ethan.
But we never got an answer as to why he looks different.
Ah, okay.
Did we get an answer to that?
He looks older.
That's it?
He looks older. So I was doing my digging, I was doing my research, because I wanted to connect what we learnt in Village to the rest of the lore that I vaguely knew and solidify it so that way I can actually cement it together. Still can't do it properly. But Chris, he looks bigger, he looks older, and his hair is shorter. Just somewhat. It's like a different style, and the facial hair throws you off. If you actually look at the remake of Resident Evil 1 in the Spencer Mansion, and then look at Chris in Resident Evil 8, you go, yeah, they do look similar. So that's what I think. They aged him. And I still don't know, did we ever find out what year this was set in?
No. I don't think we have a year, because the only thing we looked at that would have told us that would have been Miranda's journal, where she was writing about how she can't wait to have her Eve back, but I don't think it had a date on it.
No.
That was the only thing we read that was kind of current.
Well, I only bring that up because there's nothing in the game that really staples it to a time period.
All we know is that it's a couple of years after Louisiana.
It's 3 years after Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
It is somewhat modern.
So,
it's not set in a later date. But going with the knowledge that I picked up from the research and then looking at Resident Evil 8, this has got to be like late 1990s, early 2000s.
Well, I was going to say, if you were really honestly, you had to know, there would be a date in Resident Evil 7 because one of the first things we see is Mia on a video camera talking to Ethan. There would have been
they had laptops and internet and
emails
they did. And everything.
There would have been dates in the 7. So if you really wanted to, you could figure out what the year is in this one. Anyway, one of your constant insistence turned out to be wrong.
That
the witch is not Rose.
Yeah.
It makes more sense for the witch to be Miranda.
It did, and I didn't want to believe it.
I still don't understand how the witch was Rose.
I don't know. I don't have
You just had a feeling.
I just wanted it so badly to buy into my own hype that this was so cool and everything was twisted and it was Inception and there was layers and all that. And
you're looking for too many layers, dude.
Yeah, the obvious answers, I rejected them. I went, no, I deny you. Give me, God damn it, I forgot it. What's it called? Crack ship. Give me that crack ship fanfic stuff.
All right. Well, then the last thing we touched on last time that was explained, and this I think is probably one of the cooler pieces, why the umbrella symbol was on all these old carvings.
Oh, I can answer that one.
This I think was probably the best twist to this whole game. Best piece of information. This symbol actually originated, I'm not sure if it's in this town or in this castle, but from Miranda. This was a symbol they had. And someone who ended up being... Was it someone who just worked for Umbrella, or was it someone who created Umbrella?
Created.
So the guy who created Umbrella actually came to this castle, or to Miranda at some point. She introduced him to the Metamycete, told him all about it. And he left there and took what he'd learned from that place to create Umbrella and the T-Virus.
Close.
So, anyway, he created Umbrella and he stole her symbol. So that is why this umbrella symbol is actually a 100-year-old symbol on some carvings. Come on, you. Explain the lore to us.
So, I just did a little bit of lore digging. I wanted to do a lot and really deep dive into it, but...
There's too much out there.
I ran out of time, I'll be honest.
There's too much, ladies and gentlemen.
So, from the events of Resident Evil 8, we learned that Mother Miranda loses her daughter.
Wasn't she human when she lost her daughter?
Yes.
Well, then she's only 100 years old.
Whatever.
She lost her daughter in the influenza outbreak of 1918.
Okay.
So she's only 100 years old.
Whatever. She's old. All right.
No, I'm shutting up now.
She's old. She's so old.
I'm sure your facts are right. I'm shutting up now. All yours.
No, I got to make the point. She's old. Do you get? She's old. Not really old. Just old.
Don't make me poke you.
Okay. Mother Miranda loses her child. Her child is Eva. EVA. Distressed, distraught, whatever, is out in the woods and stumbles across this cave. And inside this cave, she comes across this black mold, which is the Megamycete. Gets absorbed into it, I think is what happened. Learns all about it. Becomes one with it, essentially. And is like, cool, sweet, I know what I'm going to do. Kaido, or whatever they were called. She starts experimenting. And actually, no, she doesn't do that straight away.
No, she didn't do that. Moreau did that.
Moreau, yeah. So, Spencer, I know the guy's name is Spencer. Spencer rocks up and he finds Mother Miranda. And she's like, hi, let me show you all of this. Let me teach you about the mold. And he's like, wow, mind blown. Cool. What a great idea. Takes a sample of the mold and leaves. Okay. So Spencer goes back and speaks to his two colleagues, Ashford and Marcus. And the three of them actually start working together and discover this flower that's growing in Africa. And they want to experiment on it, but they don't have the funds or the means to it. So what they do is the three of them, combine their forces and create the Umbrella Corporation. And the Umbrella Corporation is a means of funding their research into this flower by secretly, behind each other's back, selling their discoveries and their bioweapons, whatever, to various governments. This eventually leads to Marcus creating the T-virus with William Birkin and Wesker.
And how does he do it?
He does it with leeches.
No, the original. What's he pair the flower with?
Oh, the black mold.
Yeah.
Okay, so the three of them have actually combined this flower that they found in Africa with the black mold and been able to create the T-virus. Okay? And Marcus does that with leeches.
Don't ask me how. Yuck.
Yeah, it goes. Anyway, focusing back on Spencer. So Spencer has Ashford, the third wheel, killed off. All right, he has him assassinated just for the sake of it, just because, one less person to deal with. He then secretly hires Birkin and Wesker out from under Marcus, and then has Wesker and Birkin then kill Marcus.
Oh, dear.
And that goes into a whole that goes into the whole thing, Resident Evil 0. Birkin then goes on to create the G virus for Spencer in Nest, which is the thing under Raccoon City. But unfortunately, with this one action, with Spencer taking on these two and having Marcus killed, it leads to the T-virus outbreak that happens in Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1. Jump ahead to Resident Evil 2, we find that Birkin's greed is actually the reason for the G-virus outbreak in Raccoon City. Eventually, Umbrella is outed and shown what they're actually been up to and what they're doing, and it's dissolved. They declare bankruptcy, all that sort of stuff. However, Spencer goes into hiding. He completely disappears off the face of the earth.
Coward.
With this void, many other companies start jumping into this, the biowarfare game, so to speak. Like, they're all trying to get their toes into it. But Wesker is always out in front of it. He's on the front lines of the biowarfare game, constantly jumping to whomever side suits his means. Which ultimately, doing this, leads him to having to, or wanting, I don't know. He ends up killing Spencer. And then, what else?
Sort of everything's been
And then I guess the next
set in motion now.
Yeah, the next big thing would be that this crime organization that is dipping their toes into the biowarfare game reach out and contact Mother Miranda, and they begin working together. And Mother Miranda and the connections, as they're called, create Evelyn. And Evelyn is the connection to Mia, and Mia is the connection to Resident Evil 0.
Resident Evil 0?
7!
Your Shenanigans here is focusing on the Umbrella Corporation side of things. I want to focus on this story side of things. And in this story, so Miranda lost her daughter, was distraught, potentially suicidal. She stumbled across, I thought, the metamycete, the big, the embryo-looking thing.
Yep.
And she learnt from that, well, number one, she was given herself power, life, whatever. She also learnt that the consciousness... Now, is it everyone who's died, or everyone who's died who's come in contact with it?
I don't know.
She learned that the consciousness of people that die, it can be accessed through this. So she realised this was a way she could bring her daughter back to life. But she knew she needed a good vessel. And that's what she's been doing for the past 100 years with her villagers. She takes people from the village, experiments on them, exposes them to the mold to see how they react with it. Now, most of them just turn into lichens. The 4 people that haven't are the 4 lords. Heisenberg has an electrical current through his body that allows him to control the metals. Moreau he constantly mutates. He can't control it. He turns himself into the fish, and he also has those poison abilities. The Benvenuto girl, she had a really good connection to the mold, but she had too many mental problems. She did something. She split her connection to the mold by allowing her dolls to have a portion of it.
Yeah, she put them in each doll or something
like
that.
Yeah, she put a bit of her soul, I think it was, into each doll, and she lived through the dolls. So she was a strong candidate, but she was a bit too crazy, unfortunately. And Lady Dimitrescu, due to a genetic anomaly, required blood to live on. So that's where the vampirism came into effect. She was a good candidate, but due to that genetic anomaly, she did have a weakness. But those were Miranda's best candidates so far. And she'd kept experimenting. Moreau had created the Kadu, which is like the little, instead of just having
embryos.
Mold, he'd almost created like a little parasite they could input in people. And despite all of her experimentation, somehow she heard about Ethan and Mia's interactions with the mold in Louisiana, and she realized that Rose potentially was a good candidate for her daughter to be reborn. But she needed to test it, which is why she cut Rose up into 4 pieces. She wanted to test Rose's regenerative abilities. And if Rose could put herself back together perfectly, no mutations, no side effects, then she was the strongest candidate for her daughter to be reborn. And that's her whole purpose throughout this whole film. Game.
We both saw this just recently. And you remember so much more than I do. Like, you're saying it to me and I'm going, oh, yeah, right, oh, that's right. Yeah, hang on, I remember something like that. I'm telling you, man, I feel bad, but my heart isn't in this one.
We also learnt that, yes, when this man from Umbrella came to town, Miranda worked with him. She was hoping that with the 2 of them, they could succeed. He inadvertently stole some of her mold.
He pieced out.
And did experiments himself. One of the things they did, which was on the ship, obviously, they did the same thing. They tried to recreate Eva.
Called it Evelyn.
And they got Evelyn, which was not a good... Did it actually have Eva's consciousness, or was it just physically looked like her?
I think it just looked like her.
I think it was just a physical representation of her. But I think to Miranda, that was a big no-no, because of course they're bringing her daughter back wrong. And assumedly that is what drew her attention to Louisiana, and that's when she learned about Mia and Ethan and potentially the potential there for their child.
That makes sense.
But so that was the main, that's Miranda's point of view, like for her life. That's her reason for being. That's why she's done all this. And it also explains why all of a sudden everything in the village has changed. You know, she's protected the village all these years because she needs the people to experiment on.
I was going to say, I think protection's a strong
Not
word.
protected, but she's maintained that, you know, there is a somewhat thriving population because she needs people to experiment on. As soon as she knew of Rose and had Rose, she didn't care anymore. She just, you know, let them handle themselves, which of course they all died.
Damn, man, I feel bad.
But that was like the whole story behind this game.
Yeah.
But that also shows how it ties into Umbrella, why that symbol was there, because everything that Umbrella is
stemmed from this.
They got from Miranda because they stole and then let their greed and their ingenuity get in the way.
I feel bad.
But I enjoyed your lesson as much as you gave it, because as I said,
it was terrible.
I haven't seen the Resident Evil games. I've only seen 7 and 8. So I, of course, did not realise how connected all of these games are.
No, 7 and 8 were considered a soft reboot of sorts, but they're still connected to the past events, but the past events are also slightly being retconned as well. It's interesting, but I'm just feeling bad about all this. You paid so much attention. You've come in with so much knowledge.
Unlike someone, I did my homework.
And I had one job. And
there was one thing that was never answered. Something that we queried and something that the people we were watching queried. And that was, we still don't know who Duke was.
I'm sure we'll find out one
because
day.
He was someone who was obviously in the town, and he was someone that obviously was never called up to be an experiment. He was
the joke that
either protected or, off limits, and he helped us.
Well, the joke that kept getting made when we were watching was that he was connected to Resident Evil 4's merchant.
Which I know nothing about.
I know very little about as well. Again, I can't play these games. I am big chicken baby man. All right, I can't do this. I can't. It's too much for me.
I'll strap you to a chair and play it in front of you.
Fishman, no problem. Propeller face, whatever. Heisenberg, okay, cool. Mother Miranda, angelic deity, monstrous thing, yeah, okay, cool. Lady Demetrusk, D, whatever her name is, yeah, big dragon thing, cool. The creepy dolls, yeah, I was alright with that.
No, you weren't.
I was alright. I was somewhat alright with it. Throw a zombie at me or a ghoul, and I'm done. I'm out. Goodbye. So I can't do it. Anyway. Yeah, I feel bad because you've come in with so much knowledge and you've pieced it all together, and I'm listening to it going...
It was pieced together when we watched it.
Yeah, but this is what I feel bad about. Clearly my heart wasn't in this.
Aww.
The first half, I was so into it, but then the moment that curtain was ripped away where it's, well, no, you're wrong, and the only conclusion to make was the most likely one, I feel like I checked out. You think about it. We watched the first half of the series. We came in, we did our podcast on it, and we were fan theorying. I was excited. I wanted to talk about it. I had so much I needed to get out. All right. We put that out there. And
Shananigans just really got his hopes up that it was going to be something cool and interesting and not predictable.
Yeah, the moment it was all taken away, I'm like, oh, the magic was gone. So I sat there and I watched it and I'm like, cool. And I enjoyed it, but as soon as it finished, I wanted to know, okay, how did this connect to everything else? And even then, I only half-heartedly did it, which I think is pretty obvious by the fact I can't remember.
The main reason it connects is, in terms of the Resident Evil universe, the only way it connects is that this is the origin of Umbrella.
Well, this is the origin of the G virus and the T virus.
But it's also the origin of Umbrella as a company.
Yeah.
The symbol, the people who created it.
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Everything they've done and tried to achieve.
Yes, everything stems from this one interaction between Spencer and Mother Miranda. And the black mold. Yeah, Studio Cat.
Hello, Studio Cat.
You're interrupting.
Be quiet. You're all wet. Alright, mister. We're talking about Resident Evil 8.
Yeah, I'm just...
What we learned, what our thoughts are, anything that's still annoying us.
Right,
Let's go back to that.
Alright.
Recapping over here.
It's set in Europe. Everyone's American.
That's going to bother you, isn't it?
That really...
Well, I mean,
grinds my gears because that just comes across as lazy.
It makes sense. There were two things in our last podcast that we both, that was annoying you, and the thing that was annoying me the most was the hand thing. I got an answer.
The hand thing makes sense.
You didn't. So.
No, the hand thing was just stupid because, goop juice fixes everything. That annoyed me. But the moment they said, he's the mold man, I'm like, okay.
But as you said last time, if the hand itself had just gone back on, as I said, that wouldn't have bothered me. It was the fact that the jacket went back on that annoyed me. But now that we know he's mold, that makes sense.
I always just went, the jacket went back on because of video game limitations.
Yes, I know.
It was just easier to show that the jacket went back together.
No, it would have been easier to cut his hand off at the wrist above the jacket if they weren't going to include the jacket.
Well, whatever.
But my one annoyance was explained. He's mold. Your annoyance about the accents, unfortunately,
the accents remains...
Well, I mean, seriously, how hard would it have been to get American people who just put on
That's what I said.
a European accent?
That's what I said. Did I say that?
You don't have... No, you said they should have sourced properly.
You could have cast from Europe. You could have cast from the UK. You could have cast from America. You could have cast from anywhere. Just have a European accent. Okay? You don't have a European accent? Can you do one? Excellent. You're in. Can you do one? No, you're out. See you later. Like,
that would have been appreciated.
Ethan being American, fine. Chris, Mia, American, fine.
The villagers.
Heisenberg, the voice actor, the motion capped actor, is European, but they made him put an American accent on.
All right.
Lady D, she had somewhat of a European accent. It was more like an American.
She had more of a posh American accent.
That's what I was going to say. It's like an American who's gone over to Europe and is like, oh, well,
I'm going to sound fancy.
Yeah, exactly. So,
all right.
There was that. Yeah. Those were my two biggest gripes. Was that
so after seeing
the obvious answer was the answer, and everyone was American. After
seeing the whole game, the whole thing, the only thing that bugs you is the accents.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I don't have any bugs. The one thing that was annoying me was explained. Very grateful. I enjoyed it. I don't have Shananigans' proclivity for predicting things, so I'm
so disappointed.
I didn't have this is going to be predictable and boring. Unfortunately, however you look at it, I'm one of those people who just doesn't think. They just watch it and they just want to know what the person who's created this has come up with. So I'm one of those people who will, watch, this is a perfect example. Fantastic Four.
Which one?
No, I'm comparing the two. So
which one?
The new one that came out that you hate and that a lot of people hate.
Fan-4-stick.
Whatever you want to call it.
We've got the Fantastic Four, we've got Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then we've got Fan-4-stick.
Yes, that one.
I've never
watched that.
Nope.
And I like it. I appreciate it because it is someone's...
But you make a habit out of enjoying bad things.
Shut up. It is someone else's interpretation of how that story could have played out. No, it's not canonical, and a lot of people out there to the comic books just go, like Shannon, not watching it, don't like it, not interested. But me, I see it as someone's interpretation, someone's idea that could have happened, and I appreciate that for what it is. So that's how I watch things. I watch things and I just want to see where the creator is taking this. I don't think up possibilities, and then obviously I can't be let down.
You are a better person than all of us, because you can watch a bad movie and love it, and then the movie that everyone raves about and is good, even in my opinion is good, you will watch and go, it's all right. So the movies that get the love, you're like, whatever, I don't need to pay attention to this. The movies that don't get the love, A-Game is your crusader. She's on the front lines waving the flag, going, I'm here! I responded to the rally cry.
Nah, so I really did enjoy this. I enjoyed the idea behind this. I enjoyed where they took it and all the little bits and pieces, the twists and turns. I liked the final ending, the fact that they did tie everything except the accents in. Yeah, I think it was a good game.
Look, it was a good game. It was a good story. Again, I got so caught up in my own hype. I just built it up. And I was let down by the most obvious answer is going to be the answer. And the fact that I was hit with that, just, I don't know. Obviously, subconsciously, it just flicked a switch where it just went, well, we've checked out now.
There was one thing...
Because I did not retain very much information about the rest of Resident Evil 8.
There was one thing that I didn't get. So, Chris spoke to Ethan, told him to just get out, that they had a plan to get Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan killed Heisenberg and then was killed by Miranda.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a scene where... Really, Studio Cat?
Son of a bitch.
I'm not letting you back in. Alright. And then there was a scene afterwards where he had died and Chris had been notified, where one of Chris's team said to him, shouldn't you have told Ethan the whole plan? And Chris said probably, but too late now. Chris, and I'm assuming he didn't because Ethan wouldn't have liked it. And my thought at that point was that maybe they weren't planning on rescuing Rose because technically I'm assuming she has some sort of a moldness to her or she's dangerous, which based on the end scene we assume she actually might be. But if his plan all along was just to destroy the Megamycete, well, Chris wouldn't have known that was a problem unless he knew that Ethan was a mold person at that point. I mean, was he assuming that Ethan wouldn't want that because he'd want to live even though he is technically mold, or what's your thoughts?
Thinking. He didn't know Ethan was a mold man because that caught him by surprise.
Well, I suppose he didn't actually learn that until he spoke to Mia, so no, he didn't know that at the time of the conversation.
He assumed there was something wrong with Mia. Speaking of, how did Mia know that he was a mold man?
No, Mia just said that... Mia said something about how there's something special about him.
From that, I gathered that she knew.
I assumed that...
And she got down with the mold.
No, I assumed that, at the very least, she's... Because she said something along the lines of what he's been through and survived through, something like that. So I'm assuming she knew at the very least that his sort of healing abilities were not normal. But I mean, she could have picked that up just from watching him cut himself in the kitchen and then be healed in 5 minutes.
I don't know. I suspect, going back to your Chris Redfield thing, was that Umbrella was like, get that girl. Bring her in. We're going to experiment on her.
Miranda?
No. Rose.
Rose. Oh.
So that's why Ethan wouldn't have liked it. That's the only conclusion I can draw.
But I mean, if that's the case, well then Mia's not going to like it because they have actually got Rose and she's safely in Mia's hand.
But they thought something was wrong with Mia, so that's what it was. It was, take Mia out, protect Ethan, capture Rose, get them to safety.
Well, so now they know that there is something different in her, about her physiologically or in her DNA, but clearly, because the fact that she is still alive, because when you blow up the Megamycete, I assumed anything connected to it or created from it would die. Meaning if Lady Dimitrescu and Moreau and all those were still alive, they would have died because their connection is gone. But the fact that Mia and Rose survived means that if they do have a connection, it's nothing important. It's just a lingering trace.
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? I did like the...
What about that final scene with Rose? Do you think she's got powers?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's obviously the protagonist for the next installment.
I mean,
all right, and
the fact that she said to that guy, there are things I can do that you don't know about. I was like, ooh.
Okay, so
she's got abilities.
I assumed mental powers of some sort. I also assume regenerative abilities, just based on 7 and 8, and your point with what Mia said. He took so much damage, what he went through, blah blah blah. Yeah, because he was a mold man and he could take it. Well, now Rose is like the super mold man woman thing. She's just going to be able to regenerate from whatever happens to her in the next
But she's not like Ethan. She's not made of mold. Maybe she just has mold power in her cells or something.
Who knows?
Anyway,
I don't know. Again, my heart wasn't in this. The wheels fell out. I thought it was cool, the flashback to reveal that Ethan was dead the whole time, and it specifically showed you when it happened. I'm like, oh, that part's cool. Yeah, makes sense. That's what I believed.
Well, in a way, you were right then, because you said you don't think he'd ever left Louisiana. In a way, he hadn't.
No, it's a hollow victory.
It's a hollow victory.
It's a hollow victory.
All right, everybody. I think we've talked about this game enough.
Too much.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this second installation of a Resident Evil 8 Village Ramble. We've been there, we've seen it all, we've talked about it all, we've had enough now, so we're going to go for today.
It's true. We're out. Guys,
thank you for joining us. Please join us again. Please follow. Is that the terminology we use?
Yeah, follow us on your socials.
Please follow us. You can also check us out on YouTube. We are Shananigans Gaming over there if you want to see us ramble around while we play video games.
And not play scary games.
I play some scary games.
We do Halloween special.
We do spookies. Not scaries, but we do spookies.
What have we done? Slender and Stories Untold. Yeah.
I think there's another one in there, but I can't think of it. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us. Bye.